The first rhetorical question for the audience is, have they ever watched back any of their meetings to understand whether that was a great meeting for the client?
So the firms that learn how to capture, analyze, and coach from these conversations, Dean, are going to be the ones to accelerate advisor capability faster than ever before.
How is my team going on that context of delivering advice in the same way consistently over time?
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to UncommonCents number 109. The dynamic duo are back together. My good mate Dean Holmes is here with me today. And today we're talking about something that's rapidly moving from interesting technology to a genuine competitive advantage for advice businesses. That, ladies and gentlemen, is meeting intelligence. Let's face it, for years, advice firms have tried to improve advisor performance through file reviews and observations and training sessions and coaching frameworks. But the reality is most coaching has been based on fragments, a few notes here, a recollection of a meeting there, maybe a compliance review weeks later. So now for the first time, we can actually see and hear what great advice conversations look like at scale, Dean. Meeting recordings and transcripts, Dean, are going to change the game. Not to replace advisors and not to create a surveillance culture, but to create better coaching, better client experiences, stronger consistency, and ultimately, Dean, better businesses. Because as we know, mate, hidden inside every advice meeting are patterns. The great questions advisors ask, the moments where trust is built, the language that creates clarity, the points where clients become confused, the signals that someone may not proceed, and the habits that separate elite advisors from the average ones. So the firms that learn how to capture, analyze, and coach from these conversations, Dean, are going to be the ones to accelerate advisor capability faster than ever before. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to unpack what is meeting intelligence, how advice businesses are using it right now, or as a matter of fact, I don't think many advice businesses are using it right now, but maybe how they should be using it, where those opportunities are and where the risks are, and most importantly, how to use these recordings and transcripts to genuinely coach advisors rather than simply monitor them. Strap yourselves in. I'm going to hand over to my great mate to kick off the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig. I didn't know when it was going to end, to be honest.
Neither did I, actually. It was just rolling.
What a great introduction. And what we're going through today is really just how we're learning from meetings in a new way, because the world has changed a little bit. And we'll go back on a little bit of a history lesson as we prepare. And so first and foremost, how did we learn to be advisors in the past, and how are we learning to be advisors in the future? And so if I go back 20 years ago when I started, Craig, a couple of things happened that don't always happen today. So first and foremost, if we think about it, I was in an office learning from people that sat around me. So yes, it was an open plan office, so that you learned and observed how to talk to clients who were on the phone, because that was a predominantly way in which you talk to clients back then. So I was hearing lots of phone calls in the pit of those conversations. And secondly, as an associate advisor or a client service person, you would go into a lot of meetings, be it part of the meeting and the whole meeting. And so you learnt through virtue of being taken through those processes with the advisors that you were working with. And so you got exposed to a variety of different conversations, a variety of different client issues, and a variety of different client personalities. And you were able to essentially build your style, Craig, as you got confidence and you went through that experience. If we fast forward to some advice firms now, and a growing majority of advice firms now, a couple of things are different that we want to learn from and then work out a new way. So lots of meetings are done remotely. So therefore they're on a Teams meeting. And so if you have a Teams meeting, that may or may not have an associate advisor in it in terms of what's listening. Everyone is working remotely and working from home potentially, Craig. So you're not hearing those client conversations as frequently as what you would if you were sitting in an office. And there's quite a good understanding now as well, Craig, that me listening to your phone call is actually distracting to me. And so there's a desire actually for people to wear headphones in the office when they're doing focused work, or when you pick up a phone call, you need to go to a quiet room in order to not disturb your colleagues. And so the world's changed as a result in terms of your ability to learn from your colleagues or from those conversations now. And so because of that, there is a lot of valuable things that we're losing in this world that we once got. There was obviously some negatives as well, as I highlighted, but we've lost these things. And so what we're trying to do today, Craig, is get them back. And the data is there because we have recordings of client meetings and we have transcripts of client meetings, but we have to start to use these things to actually coach and mentor advisors and use these things to coach and mentor the support staff as they come through going forward. So Craig, the first rhetorical question for the audience is, have they ever watched back any of their meetings to understand whether that was a great meeting for the client with experience?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I don't think many people are doing that at all. We know that a lot of people potentially have shifted to recording these things, so that the access to the video or the sound bite or whatever it might be is now available. But I don't think anyone's taking the time. I shouldn't say anyone, that's unfair, because there are a handful.
There are a few that we know of, but yes.
But I think generalize, I'm not sure lots of people are actually putting that time in to sit back and review their meeting. But more importantly, Dean, the part you just said then, like from the client's perspective, like it's easy to watch a recording back and go, oh yeah, I did this and I did that. But are you watching it in terms of how the client's reacting to it and what they're doing? I think that's the big part, right?
Absolutely. And so we break that down into sort of a couple of different parts. And so firstly, there's a physical part, i.e., how did I look on this? How did I look on the screen and how was I set up on the screen? Was I looking down because my camera was on my laptop screen? Did I have a light and things like that? If you look at both of our setups at the moment, you got a nice little gum tree growing in the background as to there's a physical space that you have to stand in when you're talking to your clients. And so it would be good in terms of this meeting intelligence, first and foremost, is to rewatch some of your past meetings just to have a look at how you looked and how the meeting was run physically for the client experience. And so if we think about the client experience, it goes to how you look showing up in the meeting and how clients can see and hear you. And secondly, how you choose to use and not use screen sharing. I don't know about you, Craig, but you might not know this, but when I share my screen, you go really small.
Yes.
Okay. And the meeting intelligence to observe that is to see what happened, what the client's doing as a result of you sharing their screen, because you need to be aware of whatever is big on the screen is where their attention is going to go. And so the moment you want to explain something with a document, you may put it on the screen. But if you want to explain something verbally, you can't have the document taking up the screen because we need to do that. And so that's why we do talk about that client experience concept when you're running these meetings, is to rewatch your recording and think about it from the client's perspective as to how they would have absorbed that information as a result of how you presented the information.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I think the review part is a challenge that everyone suffers from. Like, how do I review it and how do I review it properly? And am I going to be open to what is potential criticism? You're a human being. If someone says, hey, I think you could have done this better, or even you watching it, like, you've got to open yourself up and become really vulnerable to actually watch it properly, to go, is there spots going on in this thing where I can improve? But then also celebrate the moments where you go, actually, you know what, that part there, that part of the presentation I did, it's evident the client was having fun, they were smiling, they were engaged, they were into it. I've got to make sure I do more of that. And when you're doing all of that, going, what parts of that process were really natural that I just do in every meeting, or what parts of that meeting were specific to that I might need to take out of that one and put into others?
Absolutely. So the next question is, how do we actually do this with our technology? And so sitting back and watching, if you're in 6 hours of meetings, you can't necessarily sit back and watch 6 hours of your own your own meetings. So we have to use the technology to help us. Every sports player rewatches their games from multiple different angles, from multiple different times on Mondays. That's the thing that they do on Mondays after the Saturday game. And we need a version of that, but we need to use essentially AI and the transcript to speed us up in terms of understanding what we want to review and then just reviewing snippets of the work that we've produced as a result. And so it's almost as an advisor, or if you're supervising other advisors, it's actually coming up with a little bit of a prompt to understand what you want to give the advisor feedback on, and then searching the transcripts for those moments of that particular part, and then being able to watch those back at any point in time. So if you wanted to, for example, manage an advisor to give them feedback, or get your own feedback on how we're going with the sales process, obviously, first and foremost, you can identify your new client meetings, and then you can identify a part of the new client meeting that you would like to review and therefore get better at. And so if that's explaining the service and price and closing, which is a concept that I often talk about as a package, that's a part of which you can seek out in a couple of different transcripts to then watch back. And so as a result of that, you're reducing the time that you're spending to find the nuggets of gold, but then you are watching those elements back in order to coach yourself or to coach others to be better over time.
So Dean, if you were coaching my business, and I don't think it matters whether I'm a single AR business that I'm running myself, or whether because I'm just going to really supervise myself and I'm going to watch, or maybe it's someone like you to perhaps watch something and help that bit. Or if I'm a multi-AR with a CEO and the CEO's taken the role on of coaching, or a senior advisor's taken a role on of coaching, what kind of cadence would you recommend to put in place for this kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So if we go back in time once again, it's like if you were the CEO and you've got 4 or 5 advisors and things like that, the idea that as an advisor or the CEO, sorry, that you would go, you know what, I might sit in one client meeting per week with each advisor. That would have been a really common thing to do in order to really be on top of what conversations are happening in those client meetings, what are the client issues and all of those type of things. And so that's a time investment that we would have normally done in the physical world. And it may, for those advisors and practices that are still completely physical, that probably is still happening today.
Interesting. Can I just cut you in there? Because the interesting part of when that occurs, because I used to do this when I had my employed advice channel, the first couple of times I did it, you could tell the meeting wasn't going how it normally would, because they're like, oh, my boss is sitting behind me or next to me.
Yep.
So we had to adapt and pivot a bit. And I said to them, I want you to introduce me to your client as a new advisor in the team, and that I'm here to learn from you. And that little moment changed everything. But I actually think with this new technology that's available now, it would still be much better if I wasn't in the room and I could watch it later.
Correct. And that's how,
100%.
So this is our ability of reviewing it after the fact, means that you don't have those issues that you spoke about there. But the idea that in terms of a cadence, if I was running a bigger business, I'd want to be watching one client meeting per advisor per week, but I now can watch it at speed, which is probably the difference. So instead of watching or participating in a 1-hour meeting, perhaps I can watch 2 or 3 client meetings, but only watch 5 or 10 minutes per meeting, and use AI and the transcript to find the most interesting parts for that particular advisor or owner to watch back in order to coach that advisor to have them improve. And so that's going to give the business a really good amount of intelligence to see how the advisor is performing or acting or explaining things in a meeting, which allows for better coaching of that advisor over time.
Yeah, I agree. So this is going to take, though, isn't it, for people to carve out this time and actually put it in to do it properly? What do you say to someone who, we're so busy, Dean?
You're not going to do it at 30 June. However, there should be quiet spots in your week, month, and year. But this is the goal of improving each and everyone's performance is that checking our work and checking our performance is part of improving over time. Okay.
Yeah.
So do I watch back all of UncommonCents every single fortnight, Craig? No. But do I rewatch elements? Sorry, mate. I do listen to it while I go to sleep every night. However, I do watch back elements of it because Kate makes shorter videos about this, and then I watch other sections of it. And I do look at myself and go, oh, I was in the wrong room and the lighting wasn't that good, or I did mumble a little bit when I was trying to explain that concept, or Craig and I got off topic, which is happening right now. I do review myself in that context because as part of going, if I want to do another 100 episodes, they have to be better going forward than what they were in the past. Otherwise, I am not improving this part of my craft. And so each individual advisor should have a desire to improve over time, but also think about if you're in a business with PY candidates, you want your PY candidates to actually watch back some of your videos. So you want to be improving in order for the PY candidates to watch client meetings, and also knowing that you need to watch, it's the version of supervision, not from a compliance perspective. I'm not sure if you can do it that way, but in order to coach them to be better advisors, we have to be watching our PY advisors' meetings and videos in order to coach them to be better advisors over time. And the best advisors will always have said, if you interview them, Craig, that they got better over time because they practiced parts of their meetings. They practiced how to explain concepts to clients, and they receive feedback on those concepts, either from clients and also probably from their network, in order to improve. And now if everyone's having their meetings at home without this, they're missing out on such a valuable piece of information.
I think you're right, Dan. Even in the best, you think back to sales training, right? The best sales training courses you've ever done, they've been the ones that taught you that you have to practice it. And you have to sit with someone and constantly go through, this is how I think I want to present this. This is how I think I want to get this across. Is it working? Isn't it working? You touched on compliance there, mate. Imagine down the track where compliance reviews actually start from transcripts before documents.
Amazing idea.
You actually get this whole concept of what's actually going on in that room, what's being said, what's being done. And you need AI to do that as well, because again, you can't have someone sit there and watch hours of meetings on end, but to be able to get the key theme and almost put yourself in that room at that time when you're reviewing something would be incredible. And the other thing I think I really love about this is the personalization of training that can occur. So just, I said, sales training. Everyone comes into a room, we're going to teach you this part of the advice process, and everyone gets taught the same thing because that's how we're going to do it, because you're all here to learn this bit. Whereas if you're a coach and you're looking at an advisor, the specialization, the personalization that you can start to bring into the bits that they really need, I think it's just going to be incredible for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It works two ways. It's the personalization for what that particular advisor needs, but also if you think about a brand of financial advisors, you actually want the experience to be the same. Lots of the larger businesses that are going, we're a brand, so therefore you should get a very similar start, middle, and end to any meeting, because we want things done consistently, because that's a scale element of what the practice might want to do. How do you know that's happening or not happening if you're not either physically in the room or watching some of these recordings in the back end in order to see how is my team going on that context of delivering advice in the same way consistently over time?
Yeah. And mate, I just think it's going to change the game. It really is. I love the idea you just said then about consistency too. But it's like, you go back to your footy coach analogy. They see someone do something really good on Monday, they put it up and go, look how that person took the ball out of the middle and did this and did that. If you start to get snippets of really exceptional ways to deliver advice, then you can show the rest of the team that too. From the other
exactly.
Look at this, watch what happened here when that happened or this happened. And I think it opens up. And I think actually as a business leader with a group of advisor things, there's a way to make this really fun as well. And to be able to interact and just bring it into the day-to-day in terms of this is how we do things now.
Absolutely. And obviously you can make a bloopers reel of all the things you did wrong over time for
Yeah,
fun,
and play them back and
have a little bit of fun of it. And the last thing that I had on my notes, Craig, was actually just remembering that lots of businesses also have remote staff, and some of those remote staff are in the Philippines or otherwise. So that we've got those staff that have actually almost never been to a client meeting. And so my last note and question for everyone to take away is like, how often do you talk about, firstly, the great things the great outcomes you get for clients? How often do you share that with your entire team, including your team potentially in Cebu? But also the idea that your team in Cebu watch back a couple of videos of client meetings to truly understand what it is that you do. I was reminded of that story, whether this is true or not, Craig, but the time when the Madagascan farmers got to try chocolate for the first time, and they had been farming cocoa beans and all that for so many years, but never actually realized that it was being used to make chocolate and tasting chocolate for the first time. Now, going to a client meeting is not as good as eating chocolate. However, if your team haven't actually watched some client meetings to know what goes on, I think it's also a really great opportunity to use this meeting intelligence to share the meeting with your entire business, entire teams. And anyone that's watching, you should be able to go into a client file and watch back the meeting. That's perfectly, I would be encouraging that. And I'd be encouraging the junior staff, Craig, that this is a great way to study the craft, is that you should be just watching the videos, even if your manager hasn't told you or built a structure around it. If you're a PY candidate, and I know there's lots of PY people watching UncommonCents, Craig, to pick up all these tips, start watching videos. You'll get a lot better faster because you'll start to hear how advisors talk to clients.
Most definitely, mate. And as we know, fundamentally, advice is a human conversation business, right? And finally, we've got some tech now where we start to hone in on that and do better.
So, yeah, absolutely. And so the other thing that we've been doing with the transcripts that I think is really relevant is actually making the sales scripts off the back of great meetings that you've had. So if you leave a great new client meeting, for example, and you're like, I explained our service and price really well today. You pat yourself on the back, watch back the video, but also take the transcript into AI and turn it into your sales script, and then practice it with your team. And so that you're getting this, getting a bit of momentum off the back of there, but just give me the transcript, turn that sales closing process into a script that I can practice, and then read it 50 times. You'll be better as a result going forward because you're practicing that script.
I love it, mate. Plenty to take from that today, but we've hit that mark where we always promise ourselves we wrap up so we don't extend our list.
We don't keep saying the same thing over and over again.
Otherwise, when we go and review this episode, Dean, we're going to hit ourselves for saying the same thing over and over. Great points today, though, mate. I think it's a very interesting topic, and I think it's got more to go, and it certainly can be embedded a lot more in advice businesses. So thank you for sharing your insights with us today.
Amazing.
There's only one thing to do. Time to go and review this episode of UncommonCents.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Bye, everyone.